I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
First, I will declare a national emergency at our southern border.
Securing the border without actually fixing our broken immigration system is dealing with the symptom and not the disease.
Entering this country illegally is a crime, and we're not going to forgive it.
We hear that from the Trump administration every single day, and it is not true. Being here as an undocumented person is not, I will say this straight to the camera, is not a crime.
Immigration is one of the most talked about issues of 2025 across the country.
This morning, an escalating crackdown nationwide.
Lakin was stolen from us by a savage illegal alien gang member who was arrested while trespassing across Biden's open southern border.
And in North Carolina.
And you come over here to study, suddenly you wake up one morning and your visa is ripped away for no reason. That's what happened to 2 NC State students late last week.
NC Department of Commerce estimates that 1 in 4 construction workers in our state is undocumented.
And I resent the fact that the Trump administration talks about they're bringing their rapists, they're bringing their criminals. Is that who put your roof on? A team of rapists on top of your roof? Or who picked your vegetables? I don't think so.
It's clear that the voters of this state and really across the country are ready to stop the lawless illegal immigration in this country.
Immigrants are what makes North Carolina great.
There are more than 1 million immigrants in North Carolina, 9.3% of the state's population, and an estimated 325,000 are undocumented. The WRAL Documentary team set out to understand how federal and state immigration policies are impacting the people of North Carolina.
And I need them to understand that the pain when the family is separated is strong and that we have to stop somehow.
Drug dealers or cartel members or gang members. I don't want them in Alamance County.
We're not criminal. We're human beings. We're like everybody. We're not criminals. We're trying just to make, a better living, be U.S. citizens.
They already had a criminal past, already been deported twice. Now they're back again. Now they kill a law enforcement officer in the line of duty. How many senseless acts like this? You definitely want to know who's coming into your country.
How this moment in time could impact the state forever. This is Crossing Borders, Immigration and Division in North Carolina.
How many kids do you have? How many grandkids? How many great-grandkids?
I had 23 grandchildren and 5 grandchildren and 5 children.
Yolanda Zavala lives near almost all of her family members. She and her 3 daughters each have their own trailer on the same street in rural Wake County.
We're living here because it's a way to live together, so that my grandchildren know what family unity is, and to teach them what a typical Mexican family is, where we're together almost daily.
How important is family to you?
Es todo.
It's everything. For me, my family is everything. The most important thing I have. I remember in Mexico that it was for them that I decided to come.
Yolanda came to the U.S. from Mexico illegally nearly 30 years ago. She brought her children with her, including her son, who was just 5 at the time.
And my dream was that they would study, that they would have a better life. There were days when we would go to bed without eating, and I felt that it was not a dignified life for my children.
She built a life for all of them. She became a green card holder. She got a job finishing cabinets.
Well, she's my most productive employee and has been really since she got here. And it's mainly because of her work ethic and her discipline and her skills.
While Yolanda was a legal permanent resident of the U.S., her son was still undocumented. When he was 18, he went out with friends.
and tell me what happened that day.
Salió a jugar.
He went with his friends to play soccer, and he never came back.
He was arrested for driving without a license.
Supposedly the tires were a little worn down, and that was like a danger to the community. I don't know how the judge saw it, but that's what they put, that it was a danger to the community. And I think one of the things was that he also did not have a driver's license. I think that was the bigger crime. He was detained on a Sunday, and I think that on Monday the program 287G started, that the immigrants who were detained would be deported.
287G is a federal program that allows state and local law enforcement to partner with immigration and customs enforcement officials, and in some cases enforce immigration laws. Yolanda hired a lawyer and tried to visit him in the detention center.
I went with the hope that they would let me see him, but they didn't let me see him. They moved him to, I think, Alamance, then Atlanta, and he was deported.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Why do you get emotional thinking about it?
For me, it's been difficult because my son was 18 years old. I think that I felt guilty for having brought him to this country. I wanted to give them a good life, but I didn't think that my son would end up in jail. After he was deported, he stayed at the border. He didn't know anyone there. He came here when he was small. He came when he was like 5 years old. He didn't want to go with anyone. He said, "I don't know anyone, Mom. Who do you want me to go with?" He was living on the bridges for a while until he decided he wanted to come back, and he came back on his own through the desert. He didn't make it because he was caught again. He spent like another half year in jail, and he said, "I love you a lot, Mom, but I don't want to be in jail anymore. I'm going to stay in Mexico for a while."
He was deported in 2008, but the pain has never left.
What was the toughest part? You said Mother's Day. Tell me about Mother's Day.
No eran buenos los días.
Those were not good days. It seemed like we always felt his absence. That chair was always empty.
Yolanda's son was one of 23,000 people deported in Wake and Mecklenburg counties from 2006 to 2018, when both counties ended their 287 agreements. However, in late 2024, HB 10 passed, which requires all law enforcement agencies in North Carolina to cooperate with ICE. New state immigration laws and mass deportations by the Trump administration has her family and community on edge.
Es difícil.
It's difficult to live with fear. Every day we live with the fear that one of us won't come back to the family.
Yo no entiendo.
I don't understand why they want to separate us. Why not give us the opportunity to be able to have a dignified life? I came to the United States a long time ago. I just live in a trailer. I don't have wealth, but I have had work, and I have had food every day.
Yo solamente les pediría que
I just ask them to touch their heart and to not see us as numbers. Sometimes they treat us like criminals, and we're not criminals.
Ned is a rare person that truly lived a selfless existence focused on others. You could reach out to Ned any time of day, for any reason, he'd be there for you. You needed to move, Ned was there all day. Had a flat tire at 3 o'clock in the morning, Ned would be the first person to show up to fix it for you.
He was someone who I would ask to be a groomsman in my wedding. He was the man who would show up for one-year-old birthday parties. He'd come by in his cruiser, bring stuffed animals to my kids, deputize them with a sticker.
48-year-old Ned Byrd was a Wake County Sheriff's deputy for 13 years. Friends say he loved his canine partner Sasha, jiu-jitsu, and singing Journey.
Don't Stop Believing by Journey, because every time that song came on, and I'm sure anybody's been in a car or working out with him, he belt that song off tune terribly.
I always told my wife, if anything ever happens to me and I'm not available, call Ned. I knew Ned would do whatever it took to help her out. It was a common occurrence for Ned to walk a lady to her car if they were leaving a restaurant or his favorite place, Lola's.
My name is Larry Carter. I'm the owner of Lola's here. And I was very, very good friends with Ned Byrd, Deputy Ned Byrd. I'm willing to help anybody at any hour, you know, of the day or night. I remember one time I actually locked my keys in my car twice in one night, and he helped come and unlock them both times. So.
Are you getting emotional thinking about it?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, the senselessness of it, you know, the craziness of it. Like, who would ever think something like this would happen?
Breaking news right now at 6 a.m. We learned in just the past hour that a Wake County deputy has been killed after an early morning shooting.
It happened here apparently just after 11 o'clock overnight, going into the early morning hours.
Wake County Sheriff Gerald Baker confirmed to us that the deputy who died in the line of duty last night is Deputy Ned Byrd, a 13-year veteran of the sheriff's office. He was also a canine officer. Deputy Byrd was in this area outside of his car checking on perhaps a suspicious vehicle. He was not able to radio for help after those shots were fired.
The community was on high alert as law enforcement searched for whoever did this.
The massive manhunt for the person who killed Wake County Deputy Ned Byrd is in its 23rd hour.
Wake County Sheriff's Office released 4 new photos of a white truck believed to be involved.
2 men are in federal custody right now for questioning in the investigation of the murder of Wake County Sheriff's Deputy Ned Byrd.
Brothers Alder and Arturo Marin Sotelo were arrested for the murder of Ned Byrd.
These new documents say Deputy Byrd was on his way to canine training when he noticed a suspicious vehicle. He went out to investigate, and then seconds later, 6 gunshots rang out. Deputies found Byrd dead hours later with multiple gunshot wounds, including one to the back of his head.
According to warrants, Arturo Marin Sotelo said the brothers went to hunt deer off Battle Bridge Road. While he was hunting in a field, he said he saw a police vehicle pull up near the truck while his brother Alder was still inside. Arturo Marin Sotelo said he then heard gunshots and saw the truck drive away.
What was going on that night so bad that you had to ambush and kill a police officer, a Wake County deputy? Like, what were you doing that was so bad, like right when he walks up to the car, they ambush him and kill him?
The brothers are undocumented immigrants from Mexico.
From my understanding, they already had a criminal past, already been deported twice. Now they're back again. Now they kill a law enforcement officer in the line of duty. You definitely want to know who's coming into your country.
A country one of the brothers fled after he was arrested.
The FBI has joined the search for Alder Marin Sotelo, still on the run after escaping from the Piedmont Regional Jail in Farmville, Virginia.
He was finally captured 2,400 miles away from North Carolina.
He was caught in southern Mexico around 1 o'clock this afternoon.
How do you let somebody that murders a law enforcement officer escape? How are they in a situation or a position or taken somewhere to some facility where they have the ability to escape after they've killed a law enforcement officer in the line of duty? And now they run back to Mexico.
Alder Marin Sotelo was in Mexico in prison until he was extradited back to the U.S. in February of 2025, where he'll go on trial.
We're absolutely elated and glad that the guy's back and that he can be held accountable and stand in front of a court. I have friends that are like, no, everybody that comes here is, just looking for a better way of life. And I get that, there are, and I love that, But you have to realize that there's also very bad actors, right? If they get here and they are bad actors and they are gonna do bad things, and this is the exact evidence of that. These are the things that happen, right?
Ned's picture is up at Lola's, his favorite bar. The stool where he sat has his name on it. There's a flag and another picture of him on the wall.
Here's the picture that was taken during Ned's funeral procession that was coming down Glenwood Avenue.
The entire community came out for his funeral, led by his canine partner, Sasha. They even played his favorite song at the service.
It takes a special man to get Journey played in church, you know what I mean?
Many people in this room thought of Ned as their best friend. You're right, he was.
His best friend also had a moment to say goodbye, jumping up onto the casket.
So Sasha, I know you can't understand this girl, but if you can understand anything, know how much he loved you. So Ned, our friend, our brother, colleague, and our hero. You knew that you'd willingly give everything for any of us without second thought or hesitation. We just never thought you'd have to.
What do you think this shows in relation to immigration?
It shows we have a major problem.
I think that we are just seeing massive cruelty, and we're seeing that in a mainstream way.
I will stop the invasion of criminals into our country.
From the campaign trail to his first day in office, President Trump promised big changes to immigration enforcement in 2025. Tom Homan was named border czar.
Illegal crossings down 95%. ICE has arrested over 21,000 people in the nation. We had about 1,800 a day in 2023. You know how many had yesterday? 48.
Leave now. If you don't, we will find you, and we will deport you.
Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Cristin Severance, put out commercials telling people to self-deport. She visited a prison in El Salvador, where hundreds of Venezuelan migrants have been sent after getting deported from the U.S. The Trump administration claims they are part of the Tren de Aragua gang.
If you come to our country illegally, this is one of the consequences you could face.
Advocates like Nikki Marine Baena of Siembra and C knew things would be different.
How would you describe this moment in time right now?
I think that we are just seeing massive cruelty, and we're seeing that in a mainstream way. And so, for example, the White House put up a post for Valentine's Day that was a kind of roses are red, violets are blue. I can't remember the whole thing, but it was like a joke about deporting illegal people. I can't remember ever in the past seeing so many kind of memes and jokes about deporting illegals in a mainstream way.
Now we're getting a question, well, you said you're going to concentrate on public safety threats and national security threats, but you arrested non-criminals. Yeah, damn right we did. Because you're in the country illegally, which happens to be a violation of our law. Entering this country illegally is a crime, and we're not going to forgive it.
According to the American Immigration Council, physical presence in the United States without proper authorization is a civil violation rather than a criminal offense. It becomes a criminal offense if someone has previously been ordered deported and re-entered in violation of the deportation order.
And I think what a lot of people don't understand is that for this administration, being an immigrant, they're trying to make that being a criminal, even if that's not actually true. Being here in the U.S. as an undocumented person is a violation of administrative law, not criminal law. And so what a lot of people think is, well, it's okay, like I don't have papers, but I've never done anything wrong. And a lot of people put a lot of pressure on themselves and their families. So like, look, if we're just here and we just go to work, we just go to school, we do everything right, we'll be okay. But unfortunately, that's not true. Already in the detentions that we've seen so far in this administration, many of them have been of people who had no criminal records at all.
There has been controversy after ICE deported an undocumented Maryland man to El Salvador.
A federal judge ordered the U.S. government to return a man that was sent to El Salvador because of what the Trump administration called an administrative error.
The Trump administration has alleged Kilmar Abrego Garcia is an MS-13 gang member, something his family and attorneys deny.
Look, in theory, if what you're saying is we're going to deport all of the criminals. We're going to deport all of these people who are doing bad stuff in our communities. You're talking about Lake and Riley. Who's gonna say that they don't want that? What I know, because I've been doing this work for a long time, is that they're not gonna stick to just the violent criminals. That's not how you get the kinds of numbers that you wanna be able to boast about.
She says it's happening to North Carolina families too.
Que no somos criminales, no somos gente mala.
What I ask is for compassion. We are human beings. We are not criminals. We are not bad people.
35-year-old Cynthia Bautista shared her story at a news conference organized by Siembra and C in Raleigh.
We come from Mexico. We've been here 20 years plus.
Cynthia is one of an estimated 20,000 DACA recipients in North Carolina. DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. It allows some undocumented immigrants brought here as children to live and work in the U.S. legally, but grants no path to permanent citizenship. Cynthia said her husband went from their home in North Carolina to Sarasota, Florida, for a construction job after Hurricane Milton.
On February 7th, Governor DeSantis deputized Florida Highway Patrol troopers to carry out the functions of ICE agents. On February 11th, these North Carolinians construction workers were stopped under false pretenses.
He was heading back home with his crew, and that's when they got pulled over by a state trooper stating that they should have passed through the weight scale, which they were in a regular worker van.
Does he have a criminal background?
He doesn't have no criminal background. That's the reason he went to work over there, because what we heard is they're only getting criminals, not regular working people.
She said he's been in a detention center in Florida since February 12th, with 60 people in a space meant for 20.
Under really bad circumstances, sleeping on the floor, not having privacy, having the toilet in there so they can do the necessities in front of everybody. He said he's scared. He doesn't know what's going to happen.
They have 4 kids. Cynthia is worried about having to provide for all of them while she waits for answers.
They're not just grabbing criminals. They're not going after criminals. They're going after regular, parents that are going to work every day and trying to come back to their family, trying to provide for their family.
Cynthia, other families, and advocates were at the North Carolina legislature fighting against the passing of the North Carolina Border Protection Act, filed by Senate President Republican Phil Berger. It would require state agencies like the Highway Patrol and Department of Public Safety to enter into agreements with ICE to enforce immigration laws. Democratic Representative Deb Butler is part of a caucus trying to fight this bill and similar legislation.
I guess we're going to weaponize our highway patrol to patrol interstates and profile people, I guess, and check their papers. We've come to the place where you're going to have to check your papers. Does that sound familiar? Sounds like Nazi Germany to me. That's what that sounds like.
But North Carolina House Speaker Destin Hall said this legislation is what the people of North Carolina want.
And if you're an illegal alien committing crimes in our state, you got to go. This is a common sense policy that the people of our state overwhelmingly agree with.
Hall introduced House Bill 10, which passed in December, requiring all sheriffs in the state to work with ICE and hold any suspect with a detainer in their jail for an extra 48 hours so ICE can take them into custody. The bill does not specify the sheriff must notify ICE before releasing migrants. Hall said not all sheriffs were complying, including Mecklenburg Sheriff Gary McFadden, who has said on record he's not notifying ICE before releasing immigrants.
They may be holding the folks there in the jail for 48 hours, but still not telling ICE when someone's going to be released. And it's basically, they're playing games, and they're playing games with public safety of the people of the state.
Hall then introduced House Bill 318, which would require sheriffs to notify an ICE agent 2 hours before a suspect with a detainer is released.
So just this week, we introduced new legislation. If local sheriffs avoid cooperating with federal ICE officials, the citizens of this state will hold you accountable.
I believe that we need to assist ICE.
Alamance County Sheriff Terry Johnson has had a long history of working with ICE. Alamance was one of the first counties to enter into a 287G program with the agency in 2007. Remember, Yolanda's son was deported under that program. In 2013, the Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against Alamance County alleging unconstitutional racial profiling. The government later dropped the lawsuit, but ICE still ended the partnership.
Let me say this, a whole lot of things were blown totally out of proportion on this sheriff's office and immigration. I had to eat it and move on and do what I felt was right and what my oath of office held me to.
In 2019, Alamance County started working with ICE again. That partnership continues today.
We're a holding facility probably for the biggest part of North Carolina right now.
The facility can hold up to 40 ICE detainees, paid for by the federal government, bringing in more than $2 million a year.
If we could hold 100, I think that'll be the case.
Sheriff Johnson says it's not just a talking point. Some undocumented people are committing crimes.
I can tell you we have a few homicides here and a ton of drug cases here that I'll be glad to show you what we're dealing with here in Alamance County.
And it's cartel. So
cartel, every bit of this is cartel.
This is all cartel.
Yeah.
And he did, showing us pictures of millions of dollars from cartel drug seizures.
20 kilograms of cocaine from Tucson, Arizona, destined for Alamance County.
He showed us pictures too graphic to show of murder and kidnapping victims from the early and mid-2000s.
The cartel members that was arrested in some of this stuff, murder. This is what bothers me. This is a 2002 murder. This man was killed at Motel 6 in Burlington.
I was not expecting, I mean, these are bodies.
Yes, ma'am, they're bodies. Bodies as a result of the drug traffic from immigrants crossing the border, cartel members, etc. Believe it or not, I have a lot of support from the immigrant community because a lot of them know what my heart is. Those individuals will tell you, unless somebody violates the law, we don't mess with them.
For the White House and for the architects of this kind of messaging, there is not a difference between a criminal immigrant who is a drug trafficker or a rapist and your friend who happens to be undocumented, or your cousin, or that guy who always changes your tires. You see a difference. The administration does not see a difference, and it is important to them that all of that start to get blended together.
It's difícil. It's difficult to live with fear. Every day we live with the fear that one of us won't come back to the family.
This is what happens when you don't fix the problem.
What's your biggest fear? What's your biggest fear moving forward?
Volvernos a separar. To be separated again, to have my children, my grandchildren crying again for their dads. I think it would be more painful. One of the most painful things is to see them because they're children, and sometimes they don't understand. They don't understand the systems. They don't understand why suddenly we stopped seeing a family member. And I think that's one of our fears when we go out, even to go to work. We go out with fear. And sometimes I see them through the window, and when they leave, I tell them, God bless you.
You know, Larry, we've interviewed a lot of different people for this, and, you know, some people say, oh, this notion of undocumented people or illegal people coming in and committing these crimes, it's not happening, it's very rare. What would you say to that?
Well, to someone like that, I would say they haven't lived through something like this, you know. And hopefully they don't. Hopefully they never do. But, you know, if they don't recognize things like this, I don't know what, you know, will really make people wake up. You know, if things like this, you know, never happen or, you know, don't make sense to the common sense person, then, you know, that the whole immigration fight is lost.